The Lucidol plant off Military Road in Tonawanda is a quiet place now. About the liveliest product made there is the active ingredient in Desonex foot powder. But 25 years ago, it was the only manufacturer of peracetate, a chemical used in making the kind of plastic in garment and garbage bags. Post-war project housing surrounded the old plant. The peracetate was manufactured in Building C, 2 stories of stone and steel just 50 yards from a 6-family house, just a few feet from the backyard where 4-year-old Richard Fiscus was playing. No one knows just what happened, but the first explosion ripped Building C at 11:15 in the morning. Richard's father was at work at the Peace Bridge miles away. The bridge rocked on its foundations. 3 more explosions followed. Steel beams rained on the Sheridan Parkside area. Homes were destroyed. Building C was leveled. 37 people were injured and 11 were dead. The place where Richard Fiscus had been standing looked like a war zone.
Actually, the whole outside of my knee was missing, and that's where all the corrective measures had to be taken, and that's why the series of operations.
It is amazing that he is alive at all. Doctors wanted to amputate his battered leg, but his father would not allow it. Over 500 lawsuits were filed after the Lucidol explosion. Rich Fiscus' settlement went into lawyers' and doctors' pockets years ago. It is apparent that he has a problem with his leg, but few of his friends know why. But Rich Fiscus is not a cripple. He is an excellent athlete in a variety of sports, including baseball. He works on Grand Island, owns a home in Tonawanda, and is a devoted husband and father. He does visit the explosion site once in a while, but Rich doesn't live in the past.
Having it happen at such an early age, it was as if I grew up with this way, and I don't feel shortchanged physically at all. It probably would have been different had I been older and used to having 2 healthy legs.
Has it ever occurred to you that maybe you're the kind of man you are now because of what happened to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was always, it's hard enough to convince yourself that you're normal, can do the things that other people do. And then you have to worry about the people that you're with, your family, friends, people you work with, to get them to believe that you're as normal and capable of doing things, be it sports or work or any kind of activity. So I guess there was always an extra push behind anything that I tried to do.
Today, those houses are still occupied around the plant. An above-ground pool stands where a 4-year-old played 25 years ago. And children still throw a football in the yard where human fragments were found for weeks after the explosion. The disaster didn't just change people, it changed a company too.
Extreme shock. It was a terrible disaster which the company at that time didn't believe could happen, but it did.
Lucidol after the explosion. That story tomorrow.
Well, it was extreme shock. It was a terrible disaster which the company at that time didn't believe could happen, but it did. There was some serious thought at the time that they might not be able to stay in business as a result. But the products we made, we were the only producers of them, and they regrouped and they completely redesigned, rebuilt here in Geneseo.
Lucidol never rebuilt Building C at the Tonawanda plant. Until the terrible blasts of September 23rd, the building had housed the manufacturing of peracetate, a chemical catalyst used in plastics. When Lucidol realized they could no longer make peracetate in Tonawanda, they bought 300 acres of farmland out here in Geneseo almost immediately. And from 1953 to 1968, peracetate was made in that building over there, a building that Lucidol had in operation just 90 days after the explosion. The plant is much bigger now, but peracetate is no longer made here. It is made at the Lucidol plant in Texas. Still, the chemicals here are explosive, and accidents have happened here and in Tonawanda since 1953. But the company's approach to the problem has changed.
We're in the chemical business There's always an element of hazard in the chemical business. We've tried to design this plant and all of our plants with personnel safety as paramount. So our whole concept now is quite different than it was before. People first, equipment second.
Building 35 is the newest at the Geneseo plant. It is also the building where the most volatile of the chemicals made here are assembled. But no men handle chemical flasks. It is done by remote control. Workers are protected by explosion deflecting walls. Outside walls are set to give way and release pressure when necessary. If a chemical mix goes wrong, chemicals are automatically flushed from the building into a holding pond nearby. The whole process is refrigerated at temperatures below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. The chemicals are packaged in containers no bigger than 1 gallon, and the whole manufacturing process is the cascade effect without dangerous pumps. Gravity pulls the chemicals together as the mixture drops through a huge tube. None of this technology existed 25 years ago. No one knows what caused the blast in 1953, explosions at Geneseo in 1973 and Tonawanda in 1976 are a reminder of the potential disaster these necessary chemicals carry. But Lucidol has adopted a posture of concern. Their policy now is, if they can't control it, they won't make it.
Film the National Weather Satellite.